Ani, bonjour. Sarawakindishnakas. Shebenaning and Donjaba, Takaranto and Dai. Takaranto, a Mohawk word. The place in the water where the trees are standing. The place where the fish weirs are. My dog and I spend a lot of time walking. It's my favorite way to move through this city. For me, it's a meditative action that isn't about negotiating bike lanes or public transit, but a time to slow down and really try to see the world around me. Concrete sidewalks, parking lots, now covering the rivers and trails that once flowed freely. The Petun, the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, the Métis, the Mississaugas all made their homes here. And many other nations expanding beyond these groups traveled through for commerce and trade for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I think of the other First Peoples' languages and the names they had for this place. I think of the ancient trails covered by the pressures of settlement. The waterways and the moderate climate of the Great Lakes made it a perfect place to fish, hunt, grow food, gather medicines and seeds for horticultural development. Rich, fertile, and abundant, Turtle Island's Mesopotamia. Many First Peoples and their goods traveled from here all the way to the Mississippi and back. Whenever I travel somewhere new, I try to find out whose land I'm on, and I ask, who are the original occupants here? So for Indigenous peoples, land acknowledgments are not only to assert our sovereignty and treaty rights of today, but it's also a way for all peoples to feel more connected to a place. Davenport might be a street now, one I walk down regularly in my neighborhood, but it's not just another thoroughfare. For me, it's an ancient Portage Trail that holds Indigenous knowledge. They say the animals made the first trails that led them to water, and the people followed. I imagine the deer and the moose once made this trail, followed by the people carrying their birch bark canoes, carrying their goods to trade, and bringing stories to tell. Nations from all over Turtle Island met and traveled through this land. Many languages were spoken. Alliances and decisions were made. People from different nations met and intermarried. The dish with one spoon treaty was made. Takaranto was a meeting place and land made up of sophisticated and cosmopolitan peoples and cultures that I see reflected in the city today. I wonder, is it something in the land and the water? Land acknowledgements might seem like a small and simple gesture, but like many of our ways, they are intended to have more impact and hold more meaning than the words alone. If we pride ourselves on diversity and equality, shouldn't our story include Indigenous peoples? In this era of reconciliation, we need to share the truth first. And reimagine the narrative of this land and this city together.
Hi everybody, my name is Rosary Spence, and my Cree name is Rainbow Woman, and I come from the Bear Clan, and I'm from Fort Albany First Nation, and I live here in Toronto. This is where I raise my family, and where I do my work, and where I've been residing for 15 years. Today we're gathering on this National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, Egomaga Orange Shirt Day. And I'm very thankful and happy for everybody that's here. And I would like to introduce to you my friend, Chris Spanish. He's from Witquemcom on Manitoulin Island. He's been working in the city of Toronto since 1967. That's a long time. And Gomaga, he's here with his family, his wife, his children, and he works within the community, Indigenous community, non-Indigenous community, as an addictions and mental health worker, and working in various organizations, helping our people get better and heal. And as from the effects of residential school. This is Chris.
I'm happy to be here today. I was invited by, what's her name?
Rose.
Rose. And I wasn't sure if I was coming or not. Then I was just sitting there at home, talking to my wife. Then my wife told me, "Look at me," she says. And I looked at her. "You're an elder. You were given a job," she said. "Yes. You know what you were told," she says. "Yes, I know." That quickly turned my what was going on inside me. I didn't know if I was coming, if I was coming or staying at home. Then I just sat there. And I looked at my bag and I said, "Shall we?" I said. And I just looked at my bag with my medicines in it. And when I was looking at it, it's as if something answered me. "You gotta go. It's your job. You were given a job. Go do that job," I was told. And I was getting ready to phone Rose when somebody come knocking on the door. "Oh, I don't have to phone," I said, you know. So, I'll start by giving you my baptismal name, given name, Christopher Spanish. I'm from Workwemicong, Ontario, Manitoulin Island. And my spirit name is Red Eagle. And I'm a wolf clan. And I carry these: the wolf, the bear, the eagle. These were all given to me by my healers and elders. Carry those. You got to carry those, they told me. So wherever I go, I carry those. The drum, I call it Mishomis. Every time I try and play a song, I have a hard time trying to play a song. I was told by the healers and elders, sing your own songs. Make your own songs. Not from up here, they told me, but from down here. That's where everything comes from, they told me, from down here. And when those words come out, they come out of here, they told me. And I was surprised when I got a phone call from Rose telling me, asking me if I could come. And I said, okay. Then I sat there looking at myself, looking at my legs. Will we make it, I said. Will we make it there? Will we make it back? Then I forgot that I was going to be picked up and brought back. So that I was happy then. I said, okay, I'll come. So My name is Chris Spanish, spirit name, radio. They call me the two-spirited man because I carry two spirits. I'm part Ojibwe and part Odawa. And my dad is originally from Okoyakam. My mom wasn't originally from Wiki. They were from two different places. And I was happy to be here. This is my second meeting I've had. And I'm happy to be here. And talk what we have to talk to. I'll talk about some things, about residential, about what's going on around. So each and one of us can say what you want to say. But first, I'd like to talk about the residential school. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I'm just a little hurt on the inside for what happened when the children were taken away from their homes. A lot of them didn't even make it home. A lot of them didn't even know their mother and father. Some of them tried to run away. When they ran away, some people ran after them, brought them back to the school. The hurting part for me is both of my parents were in a residential school, my mother and father. And I used to ask them questions. What was it like in the residential school when I was younger? When I was about 13, 14. And they told me, Chris, we can't talk about that, they told me. We don't want to talk about it, they told me. Why? I said, just leave it, they told me. We don't want you to carry something that we carried. So I stopped right there. I didn't ask any more questions after that. And my dad told me, you'll find out as you get older. You're going to meet a healer that's going to tell you what happened to the children that were there. When we were there, they were survivors. And I had to come all the way to Toronto to find out what my spirit name was and my clan name. I never knew I was born with what I've got, what I carry. I never knew I had those inside me. You already know what you're asking, they always told me. And I'm happy to be here today amongst you people. And with the truth, to me, there was no truth for the children that were taken away. That's the way I look at it. And it was a reconciliation to try and find out, still hold that love and carry that love. Think about those children that never made it home. Nobody knew who they were, what their names were. They were just taken away. Just before Rose picked me up, I was listening to the news. One boy ran away from home. He was 16 years old. And that was during the winter time when he ran away with just this t-shirt and just his clothes. But they found him. He died in the winter snow. That was the most hurting thing I seen on TV. And I told my wife, why did they show that? They said, you know. We already know what went on over there. That's why a lot of people, some people made it out, and some people didn't make it out. That's why we have these graves right across Canada. Some of them aren't even found yet. We have children out there that haven't even seen their moms. And the parents probably aren't even around. I was lucky to see my parents when they were told to go home. And it's pretty hard when you don't see your parents, even if you go stay someplace else for a while. It hurts. And that's one of the things that I was thinking about. Too bad my parents weren't around when they got that funding, whatever it was. They died 2 years before that money came out. That was passed around. And all my brothers and sisters, we said, why can't they pass that money around to the surviving children? That would have been real nice. But it didn't happen that way. Even my friend, he went home. And he says, I shouldn't have came home, I should have stayed in Toronto. I got nobody here, he says, back home in Wiki. Well, you got time, I told him, you know. But I brought my stuff here. I got all my stuff here, he says. I might as well stay here, he says. You only stayed in Wiki for 3 years. Then he went up. So for what went on today all over the place, it's a very sorrowful thing for me. It's hard, it's not easy. Everybody has their own ceremonies. Everybody has their own different ways of performing ceremonies. I was asking Rose that do they all speak English? I said, you know. Because sometimes when I go to ceremonies, some people laugh. Because sometimes I make mistakes. I translate in Indian, and I don't even know that I'm talking in Indian while I'm talking in English at the same time. And that's one thing all those children lost, is their language, their life. They never got to land, never got to walk the land that they owned, they were raised on. They might have played around it, but they never traveled, got to where they wanted to go. So I'm happy to be here to say what I had to say. Later on, when we're all finished talking with the meeting, I'll smoke my pipe in the 4 directions. Tell the spirits, thank you for accepting us, for being here, and watch over the people that were here. Look after them. So, Shemir,
Parents and my grandparents, as survivors of the legacy of residential schools. And growing up, I didn't have my parents to raise me because they had their own stuff going on. And I was put into foster care starting from the age of 3 all the way till I had my daughter when I was 15. And my mother is a survivor. She went to school on our reserve. St. Anne's is one of the most notorious residential schools in Canada. When she was 4 until she was 14. And so she stayed there for 10 years. You know, they say this, residential schools don't have graduates, they have survivors. Nobody graduated from residential school. You didn't come out with a high school diploma, with a GPA. You didn't come out with credentials. You survived that shit and you took it home with you. And that was your cross to bear. Bring it back to your community. And you're so messed up after that. You don't know what to do with yourself. Try to go back to normal life. My mother got pregnant when she was 14 with my brother. then she had me. Baby after baby after baby after baby. 8 of us she had by the time she was 25. And she didn't want to take care of any of us. She couldn't. She didn't know how. She didn't know how to be a mom. It's not her fault. I don't blame her. She had her own traumas to deal with. So in foster care, I learned a lot of my own things too. A lot of my own dysfunctional ways, traumas. I bounced around all over the place. And that's the legacy of what we call residential school. That intergenerational trauma. It's a cycle, right? And time went on. I started to learn more about my mother's experiences. And my father, I don't know anything about him. I just know where he lives, that's it. I don't know anything about him. My grandparents, they didn't like to talk about it. I didn't hear them say nothing about residential school, they just talked about the church. That's it. She talked about the nuns and the priests. That's it. She didn't say nothing bad about it. She refused to talk about it. But my mother, on the other hand, I heard a lot of really tragic stories of what happened to those poor kids at the hands of people that were supposed to be educating them, priests, nuns, brothers, helpers, supposed to be helpers. And, that as her daughter, that allowed me a place of understanding for her and to forgive her for not being there for me. It wasn't her fault. She was the way that she was. And to this day, she has her own stuff going on, but I allow myself to be there for her now, as her daughter. And I'm a mother now too. I have my children. My oldest is 22, and my youngest is 3. And this morning, my 8-year-old was really excited. She says, "Oh, it's Orange Shirt Day, I'm gonna wear my orange shirt." And my 3-year-old was right in there, she's so excited, "Wear my orange shirt." And my 8-year-old says, "Mom, my teacher says she wants me to do a presentation on my culture. Can I take my outfit? Can I take my drum? Can I take my smudge bowl?" So I packed up her bag, all of her stuff. I said, for me, it's like coming from a place where at one time you couldn't even speak your language. You couldn't even talk to your brother in the same classroom as you. Your hair would get cut off. You couldn't dance, you couldn't sing your songs, you couldn't do any of that. And now my kids, they can, and their teachers are asking them, show us, So, yes, it's just one day, but it's a step, It's a step towards something. I don't know what it is. I don't even like that word, reconciliation. I hate it. What are we reconciling here? We weren't friends. We were never friends. But that truth, I like that word. That's part of our teachings too, as missionary people. It's truth, that's one of our teachings. So I like that part. And that's about as much as I wanted to share, that a little bit about my family and what today means to me and for my children, and I hope, I don't know what my children can expect as time goes on, but I hope things get better for our people. I hope we can find peace amongst all of each other, all of ourselves. I hope we can all work together for the betterment of humanity, for the earth and for the world. we work in health sciences. There's lots of work that needs to be done, and I'm very happy to contribute somehow. And with that, I'm going to share a song. And this is a song that I composed for my gochum a long time ago. And a lot of you might have heard it before, but just to give you a backstory on it. My gochum was gochum means grandmother. She was a very special woman to me. She taught me a lot of things about life and how to take care of your family and how to pray and how to sing. And my sister, my younger sister, committed suicide in 2009. And I was having a hard time during that time. And I called my gochum on the phone. She was still alive back then. And she told me to sing and pray for your sister. Sing, it's going to help you. So I did. I started singing, and this is the song that came to me at that time.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Heather Mcpherson, as Rosemary said, President and CEO at Women's College Hospital. I'm so honored to be here and part of today's ceremony, where we come together to recognize Orange Shirt Day and for the long overdue observance of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Across Women's College Hospital, we recognize the importance of taking time on this day to honor survivors and ancestors who perished from residential schools, as well as their families and communities. It is also a time to reflect on the ongoing impacts and lasting legacy of these schools and our role as healthcare providers in enacting reconciliatory transformation. As many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis community members continue to experience ongoing trauma, violence, and anti-Indigenous racism, meaningful action is critical. As part of Women's College Hospital's vision of building a healthier and more equitable world, we are committed to implementing wise practices for reconciliation and ensuring that our hospital is a safe place for our community of Indigenous patients, staff, physicians, faculty, and learners. And we know we can't do this alone. The Center for Wise Practices in Indigenous Health at Women's College is a core component of our commitment to forging trust and building relationships to support transformation both within our organization, the health system, and beyond. I would like to take a moment to recognize the incredible work of Dr. Lisa Richardson and the growing Center for Wise Practices in Indigenous Health team. Through your collective leadership and guidance, I truly believe that every day we are engaging in transformative organizational and system-level action that improves the health and well-being of Indigenous peoples. I would also like to acknowledge the many partnerships forged by the Centre for Wise Practices, which are at the heart of ensuring this work is done in a good way. This includes the Temerity Faculty of Medicine at the University of Toronto and Dr. Patricia Houston, who is here with us today. I look forward to continuing to collaborate across organizations as we come together to build a health system that is culturally safe, free of racism, and that respects Indigenous knowledges and healing practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosary. Thank you, Chris, for beginning today's event and for your courageous words and sharing your remembrances and your thoughts and for your prayers. Thank you, Lisa, Rosary, and Heather for inviting me here today and allowing me to participate in this very special and meaningful event. But I especially want to thank the Indigenous members of our extended communities who join us today, both those that are here with us now and those that will watch us later online. This day, September the 30th, reminds us that before reconciliation, there must be truth. Slowly, too slowly, Canadians across the country are learning the truth, known and carried by Indigenous communities for so many generations. The truth about residential schools, the truth about the 60 Scoop, the truth about the Indian hospitals, the truth about the systemic racism that fails to respect the lives and dignity of Indigenous people within our world. This includes our healthcare system today, as we so tragically were reminded by the death of Joyce Etcheban. Acknowledging the truth must also include acknowledging our failures. The University of Toronto has historically been an instrument used in the oppression of Indigenous people. As stated in U of T's response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, we must acknowledge that our university educated generations of political leaders, policymakers, teachers, civil servants, and many others who were part of the system that created and ran the residential schools. More than that, our researchers failed to investigate and challenge the system, even when we began to know how profoundly damaging the schools were. In more recent time, some U of T researchers may well have participated in studies that caused harm in Indigenous communities or were insensitive to your needs. For generations, the University of Toronto was simply part of a dominant settler culture whose actions have contributed to the profoundly difficult situations that many Indigenous people and communities find themselves in today. We can, we will, we must do better. Thanks to leaders within our faculty, including Indigenous physicians, Drs. Lisa Richardson, Suzanne Schuss, Chase McMurran, and walking in partnership with other Indigenous leaders, we are and we will continue to be committed to making concrete change to better address the needs of Indigenous communities across Canada and to ensuring that there are more culturally safe practices and learning environments. Lisa recently wrote about the importance of advocacy. She concluded, "Advocacy begins with listening to our patients, to our learners, to our communities, and to each other." Today is an opportunity to stop, to listen carefully, to reflect on our past, and commit ourselves to future action. I am honored, both personally and on behalf of the Temerity Faculty of Medicine, to stand with you all today. Chimiwich for this opportunity to listen and to, more importantly, to learn from all of you. Thank you.
Just taking a moment
many people know that I often speak, and words are important, but today that's hard, and I want to create space for that. Today is really a day for me of listening to Elder Chris, of the stories of Rosary and your parents and your grandparents, of the stories of so many survivors, and of listening for the voices that we don't hear, the voices of those children who never came home, who never had their truth, as Chris just shared with us. And listening to me is where reconciliation must begin, because we must listen for these truths that for so long were not believed, were ignored, were suppressed, were taken away. So we listen. And in that, we will be able, I hope, to find the path forward together, listening to one another, respecting one another, working together for healing. We also have to listen to ourselves. We have to understand the effects of these traumas on our families, on our communities, on our spirit, and we have to take care. Partly, for me, when I think about listening, I also think about listening with not just my ears, but with heart. And we are schooled and we're taught to listen always in the mind and through that particular cognitive lens where the heart is not present. And it's a big part of medical education and a lot of what we're trying to change. Understanding we all are human and all have hearts, as do our patients in the communities that we work with. But listening with the heart also, for me, is listening with the spirit and imagining. And I am at a place also where I think now about how we must not only listen to the truth, but imagine and dream and look to language and culture and art and ceremony as we imagine what Indigenous futures will be like. What is the dream of Indigenous health and well-being? What kind of care do Indigenous peoples want and need? And that leads me back to the circle and why we're all here. Listening in a circle, which is non-hierarchical, which is grounded in ceremony and the knowledge of Chris Spanish and the song of Rosary Spence and the guidance of the incredible Indigenous team members, and with leaders like Heather Mcpherson and Patricia Houston. Because the dream is about creating change by educating more Indigenous peoples in health, in medicine, but also about transforming spaces like hospitals that have been violent places for so long into places that truly are healing places. And so, how do we work together in imagining that and bringing that dream forward? And we're starting with the small fire. One of the elders in our decision-making council, Banaconda Kennedy Kishbel, said to me, "You just focus on building a really small fire, Lisa. You focus on that and people will come to that fire." And we're starting to see that now. And I'm grateful for that. So thank you, Chris, for being with us in this circle, and for Rosary for your beautiful song, and for all who are sitting in this circle listening with their hearts as we imagine and dream together. And remember the truth. Miigwech.
Feels like a moment that requires courage. This is extremely transformative for me. I'm completely overwhelmed and grateful to be here. All I will say is that truth and belief go together. Listening and belief go together. And what I've realized during all the things that were coming at me around this day is that for my friends and colleagues who are Indigenous, it is to be believed. It is to be heard. It is to be seen. And starting with belief, that we not only believe them and their voices and their stories, but we believe that we can change things, and that's where it begins. So I'll just say that as the CEO of the foundation, we are honored to listen, we believe, and we pledge to act and support in any way we can. And we also believe that we can do better, and we believe that we must do better.
I'm from Wiki. I speak Indian, I tell them. That's the way I was brought up. We all have our own traditional languages, so never forget those. So never let anybody tell you, don't talk that way. They have no right to tell you, don't talk that way. You can speak your own language anytime, any place with your friend. You got to learn this one. It took me a long time. Everybody calls it the honor song. And I was told the words in Indian. So I'm going to try and sing it the way they taught me how to sing it.